Hey, welcome everyone. This is the Liverpool Black Men's Podcast. I like to call it Standing Strong with my brothers because what we want to do is be able to have a podcast where we can just have men talking about stuff that matters not only to us, but to the people around us, our community, our young people especially. And so as these podcasts will be delivering, we'll have a different roundtable of people that will express their opinions or their thoughts on the different issues that will be our topics. So on this particular podcast today, what we're going to be talking about is fatherhood. And fatherhood is something that is really important to several of us, and especially like me and Patrick had a conversation about this. And like on the one hand, it's about how black men in general are represented, especially like in the media and everything else like that. And when there are brothers who are out there doing it, you know. So I myself am named Chase Johnson Lynch, and I'm joined by my good friend here.
I'm Jeremy Blades. Sometimes I call myself Jay, so I get confused sometimes.
Only sometimes.
Only sometimes.
Yeah, I'm Blackout Productions, but my real name is Patrick Graham, and I'm here to talk about fatherhood. Let's just get this on.
And my name's Adiyinka Olashonde, and yeah, I'm doing a number of things. I'm an ordinand. I'm doing some research, and a Christian. I'm a father, been a stay-at-home dad, and fatherhood is really close to my heart. So yeah, I'm really, really happy to be talking about fatherhood.
Yeah, I mean, because, one Father's Day is just passed and everything. And for those who probably just only see things represented in the media, like, you go at home watching Netflix and chill, you would have probably just seen that, Kevin Hart film Fatherhood, as well as his talk on the red table with Will Smith. And I just thought this is a good time for brothers to just really express, like, what it is to being a father. And, like, I would just also say that Addie's going to have to leave us in the middle of this podcast. So I want to start with you, Addie, because you're very proud to be a stay-at-home dad. And I was a stay-at-home dad myself. So I just want to just get your thoughts around it, because there's, I don't know whether you face the stigma, whether you don't care about the stigma or whatever, because I know you're definitely proud to do it. So why don't you tell us about being a stay-at-home dad?
Well, there are a number of things that spring to my mind when I talk about my own experience of fatherhood, and specifically being a stay-at-home dad. It's been an immense privilege and pleasure to look after my children, to be the primary caregiver. And yes, it's been extremely difficult in many, many ways, but it was a conscious choice that me and my wife made together. It was a choice that was forced upon us through my redundancy at the time. But at that time, there were also, because I was working full-time, at that time there were opportunities for me to go into other full-time employment opportunities. But at that time, we decided that it would be appropriate for and beneficial for me to take a step back from working full-time and take a step into being a full-time caregiver. There were economic reasons for that as well, on both sides. One was, to start with, we were paying a lot of money for childcare, and lots of other people were looking after our kids. And we looked at the amount that we were paying, and it was equivalent to about half a wage, half a full-time wage.
Yeah.
And when that was our first child, and when our second child came, it was going to be half a full-time wage. And we were kind of weighing that up and thinking, one of us, half of every day that we work is going to pay somebody else to look after our children. What impact does that have on our finances, and what impact does that have on our children? Excuse me. And so we thought, well, is there a different way of doing it? And at that time, this was 11 years or so ago, there were less and less people, fathers being stay-at-home dads. And at that time, there was almost no support network out there for dads. There were lots of mothers and toddlers groups, and I'd walk into lots of them, and I would, again, being a black man anyway, and then being a
what are
man,
you doing here?
Yeah, literally, what are you doing here? Was what I experienced in lots of places. Don't get me wrong, there were lots of places that were welcoming, lots of people that were surprised at this strange oddity that had a beard, that was in this place where everybody else didn't and had boobs and were breastfeeding. But yeah, we made that decision, And I can honestly say that it was one of the best decisions that I've made. Financially, we took a hit. It was difficult. But the relationship I've now got with my 2 daughters, I can't put a price tag on that. I love my kids, but I have that experience of being there for them. There's something really important about presence.
Yeah.
Being present in people's lives, being able to speak into their lives, being able to go to random assemblies where they're presented with a certificate for sitting down still for 10 minutes in class, and they're standing in front of the school really proud with this certificate for sitting down still. Little incidental, not monumental moments, but you're there for them. Yeah. And that's what relationship is. It's a sequence of incidental moments, and that's what we draw upon when we want to know who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I did my time as a stay-at-home dad, and that's why I asked it, because I'm going to ask you gentlemen as well as your experiences is around it's the overcome the stigma, because we just assume, because we come from the older generation where it was the wife who was at home, the happy homemaker kind of thing, and but then there's also the factor is that you do miss out on those moments. I mean, I would be the one that has to go to the school meetings, the the PTA, where my son will have to do like something in school in the pier and everything. But I also enjoyed those moments, and I was saying to Patrick, one of my favorite moments was actually pushing the carriage, because I'm a big kung fu fan. Or shall I say, I'm a big Japanese samurai fan, so yeah. I looked at pushing the carriage like being Shogun Assassin, right? That's how I got through those times that I had to walk the park, because for me, I had to be there for a reason. But I was saying this to you, Patrick, and you would say you have some similar experiences.
Yeah, similar, because there's moments growing up when my son was growing up, from seeing him being born right through. I'd never replaced him, and I'm glad I was there. And sometimes I wish I was there even more. You know what I mean? I wasn't a stay-at-home dad in that full sense, but throughout most of his birth, I've been working intermittently. So I don't think I ever missed one Parents' Day.
Yeah,
from
definitely
day dot, every Parents' Day, every little child's assembly.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing them first words, seeing the first step. I think I might have missed that by an hour getting home late, but, we took a step. But, all these little things, even down to things like, and again, there's things you'd enjoy, and then there's things I see, well, I've done because I feel it has to be done. It's not a question of enjoying, like, who enjoys changing nappies? But I know I've done that, you know what I mean? And one of the main reasons I thought, well, if I'm in all day with my son, and his mum's not due back in for 7 or 8 hours, there's no way on this earth I'm going to allow my child to sit there and soil his nappy repeatedly until she comes home. That's just, I should be locked up for that child abuse in my world, because I know, as far as I can recollect, my son never suffered from nappy rash. That's because his nappies were changed when they needed to be. He's never sat there in a wet nappy for 4, 5, 6, which he's soiled once, 2, 3, when you're a baby, that's just a regular thing during the day, as we know, 6, 7 times in any one day when there are, a few weeks. And I was involved in all of that, you know what I mean? And I'm happy I was involved in that. I know people who weren't involved in that, and I think you're missing out on a lot of things, me personally. And one of the, I would say, the worst experiences for me as a father was hearing the stories of this dreaded cot death.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't. After 18 months, it's safe. And I swear down, 18 months to the day, a button switched in my mind which said, right, I can relax a bit. Because that was always on the back of my mind. Every time he went to sleep, every day.
Swaddling.
Day one. And after 18 months, that switch just went off, and it was like, I could feel the relief drop off me. It was ridiculous, because I know it's an average in 18 months, but that's how it affected me. And after 18 months, I thought, right, I don't have to worry now every time he goes to sleep. And I swear I went through that silently. I didn't share it with my partner or anybody, you know what I mean? That was just an internal thing. Because I thought, I don't want to scare nobody, you know what I mean? Scaring me enough. Yeah. Why should I then scarehead as well. You know what I mean? And you know, but that was in my head because I'd learned and read about it, heard about it. You know, and it's only when you then have become a father yourself, then things unfortunately didn't become a reality, but you knew there's a possibility it become a reality. And I found that 18 months terrifying.
Yeah.
Which didn't overshadow all the fun and the joyous bits, because that was, you know, as I said, I'd love to.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a little
all
bit of a
again.
different experience in this because my son's mother and I broke up when he was about 2. So I moved to Liverpool and she stayed where she was. And we had our issues, you know. I mean, I actually saw a video today of a guy, this is one of those TikTok things where he received an invitation to his ex-partner's wedding. And he was like, oh, should I just throw it in the bin? And he's like, well, no, because I have, you know, that's my son's mother, and his brother is not my son directly, but that's his brother. So that's all family. So it took me a minute. And I know a lot of us, we come from, we've created broken families, some of us. So, and I say broken, and it's the wrong word. Separated. We're not with the partner anymore. Let's put it that way. So for me, it took me a good 2 years to really settle. So for 2 years, you know, I can't say I hated his mother, but I really didn't like her. You know what I mean? And after that, like it hit a head. It came to a head at one point. We had a massive argument on the phone, and I hung up on it, and then something switched in my head. It was like, this isn't healthy for my son. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't about me, and this isn't about her. This is about him. So I called her back, and I just said to her at that point, we're going to make this strictly business. I'm going to call you. I'm going to speak to him. I'm going to ask you if you're okay. And that's going to be it. You know what I mean? I'm going to help you out where I can help you out. And, you know, whatever you need is what I'll try and provide. But other than that, we don't need to go into, there's no reason that we should be arguing and spitting and fighting all the time, because that's why we're not together.
Yeah,
I think that's
all,
really
it's all
important.
seen.
Sorry, but just before I do go, because I think one of the things you just said is really important, not just for parents who are separated, but for all parents. Because ask my wife, I can be and have been quite a selfish person, and we all, if we were to admit, you know, in the dark recesses of our hearts when no one's looking and it's not recorded for a podcast, a lot of us are selfish.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
No, really, it's true.
Okay.
Newsflash. But when it comes to children, we have the opportunity, and I say it's an opportunity because I think it really is, an opportunity to step outside ourselves and do something truly selfless.
Yeah.
And to make it all about the children, to make, you know, as many decisions and set up as many things around to support something other than ourselves for a greater cause. And coming from a personal Christian perspective, I think that the more there is of that in the world, the less selfishness and the more selflessness there is, then the better. And that's, again, from my own personal perspective, I think that's one of the reasons why family is important, and important to God and in the Bible, all that sort of thing, because it's the basic building block of society. It's the basic unit of, you know, man and woman comes together in whichever way, might be, you know, through traditional means or through IVF or whatever, but there's a way that children are made.
Yeah.
You know, there's only a few ways, and there's, you know, once children are made, that's the building block for society, is to kind of nurture that child and create an environment around them, and create experiences for them to help them to be able to fully engage with the world. And I'll just finally say this before I go, because one of the things that I've always felt is, you know, my children I love them to bits, and they can do quite a lot now. Actually, I'm very, very proud of them. Even my 10-year-old can help now at the moment, start cooking dinner and stuff. And I think that one of the main jobs of a parent is to prepare their children for ever increasing levels of independence.
Exactly.
In order to be meaningful, constructive members of society. And I think in terms of the context of the Liverpool Black Men's Group, one of the things that we talk about in our, you know, our weekly meetings, which, guys, if you haven't got on to find out about them, come and join us. One of the things that we talk about in our weekly meetings is about black people being and doing positive things, being positive members of society, you know, promoting each other's books. And yes, I will buy one, Patrick. You know, promoting each other's stuff and helping and supporting each other and building each other up. But you can only do that, I think, or rather, it's easier to do that when you've had that foundation where you've been taught from a young age, preferably, to walk in that way, to live that way, to act and behave that way to your elders. I remember you were talking before the podcast that, you know, the other podcast beforehand, where people were talking about how generations would talk to one another and be involved in each other's lives in a way that is not quite as prevalent as it is today. And there's an aspect of you know, encouraging people to be positive members of society, whereby it's not just them, it's every level of society and everybody. And I just really wanted to affirm and appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean. It's like, I mean, I can only really talk personally because that's probably the safest way to be. You know, I had the issue of watching Addy do some ninja movements. So I've had since me and my son's mother, we didn't reconcile. I mean, we tried at one point, but that didn't work out. But what we tried to do was create a situation where my son never felt any sort of way against me or against
yeah, you're trying to play each other,
exactly,
play off of each other.
We as specifically as black fathers, we have to remember that, and we have a lot of things where, as Addy was saying before he left, is that the selfishness comes in. So you know, I have a system. We had a system up until before the pandemic where I would go to Wolverhampton, where he lives, at least once a week, and I would stay over the night, and just to give him a little bit of this is a
dad time,
nuclear family sort of vibe, and you know, I get a lot of stick for it because people are like, well, why are you going over there? Why are you staying there?
None of your business.
How come you're giving her money, and how come you asked your family to help her out? Blah blah blah. That's got nothing to do with it. It was like, well, she's the mother of my child.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. At the bottom of it, no matter how I feel about her, that's his mother.
Yeah.
So if she's not happy, then how can he be happy? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I think we have to be real. I mean, as black men, you know, I mean, a part of these conversations is being real. And it's like, so we're of a generation, right? You know, I mean, I know I am, Patrick, I believe this is of my generation, where we grew up around an environment of single parent households. You know, I mean, you know, usually the mom is kind of like stuck, you know, raising the children and everything, and dad's off doing whatever dad does, you know. And in that fashion is that, I mean, or I can speak for myself, but I mean, I've seen that in the people around me and growing up in that. And then trying your best to be a good father with the example of the men before you. And what I'm trying to say is that what I'm noticing now as time has moved on, that's what I see is I see good fathers. I see people who are able to break through the stigma of what they grew up in, where dad's off doing whatever he wants to do, right? Exactly, and then, you know, but and stuff like that. And that's what I think that I'm looking at that with a sense of pride, like I call it, like proud daddy and stuff. Yeah. I mean, you know, still trying to get that film made. But either way you look at it, it's just that because, like, it's not because my dad wasn't there and then I grow up like being angry and then I become an angry man and stuff like that. I mean, because like I have to learn, because I still was raised by a good woman as my mom, right? You know, because I'm speaking to my son, my dad wasn't there and all that. But like in that fashion is that I'm not talking about you have to hate the dad who's gone. I mean, that's what he has, that's a choice he made. It's unfortunate. and everybody else who's had that experience. It's unfortunate, but like hate doesn't it doesn't solve anything.
You don't have to be
and
that.
You don't have to. That's what I was going to say, Jay. Thank you. You don't have to be that, which it sounds like you were just expressing. Yeah. So let's move on to funnier or cooler things.
I know I can concur with some things that have been said, because like with myself, my son and his mother, we wasn't together throughout all his life. We separated while he was young, a couple of years old, whatever. But I was always still there for everything that I needed to still be there for. So he still knew, even though, like what you said before, wouldn't use the word broken home.
Yeah,
it's not broken because he still had that family unit around him of mother, father. And what we've got to remember mentioning this to you, and discussion outside the podcast, Chase, about when the family unit was, pre-mid-70s was a powerful thing within, most communities, but, we're talking about the black community now, but it was a powerful thing, and that was recognised that it was, and it was also by the society that, we've talked about in previous podcasts about oppression and racism and so forth. That society recognised the powerful unit that a mother and father as a family can make, and there was efforts used and systems put in place to break that down. You know what I mean? And it's more prevalent and obvious in the American experience, but it still happened here, where the criminalisation, the drugs into the communities, all of this, certain parts of black communities in America. I remember the first time I went to America, where you'd heard the things about, there's what we call a drugstore, which is basically a chemist on every corner, and, I'm not used to going into a sweet shop, a shop that sells sweets and groceries that also sells alcohol. That doesn't happen. We have a separate shop to that in England, license. But in America, every shop, every convenience store sells alcohol.
All right, bro.
You know what I mean?
It's in the back.
The areas that I went to, and I was quite taken aback by that. But, in the heart of the black community, I'm talking about New York, because that was, the place.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
In certain areas of New York, and I just found, wow, that was a culture shock in that sense, because although I come from a black community in Liverpool, like when I went to America and worked in places like the Harlem and the Bronx, and, parts of Brooklyn, it was like, where'd all these black folks come from? You know what I mean?
I know, it's strange,
everywhere doing, and it was just, wow.
Yeah.
But that family unit, as I said, it was a strong thing, and they knew to break that, and it's been going on for many years, from the slavery times, where they wouldn't allow you to marry because they knew union brought strength.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And well, again, there is a myth of, every black father's a single parent, the daddy doesn't have any responsibility once the relationships break down, and that's not true across the board. Not true across any culture across the board, but it's certainly not true about the culture, and fathers across the board.
I think that's part of the thing. It's the narrative that we're fighting here. It's because there's no, like, the percentage of quote unquote absent fathers in any group of people is pretty much the same. You know what I mean? Most of the things are the same. It's just that we as black men are looked at in a specific way, and singled out on these things. And, as I said, I mean, I can look around, like I grew up in Bermuda, 2-parent home, very strong, parents both worked. I had a very stable upbringing. So for me, when me and my son's mother's relationship broke down, I felt myself a failure. Now, as a black father, that took a lot to get over. It's like, I am not the relationship failed, but that doesn't mean that I have to fail as a father at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the whole thing, is what I was trying to say and indicate, is that we have a lot of our own baggage to fight to be the father that we didn't have. And everything
or that
like
we
that.
did have.
Well,
You know what I mean?
sorry.
For
Well,
me,
he wasn't there, bro.
Well, for you, I mean, but for me, my dad was. My dad was there.
I see.
My dad was there. My mom was there.
Sorry to hear
but
that.
It's the same thing. but it's the same thing as we were saying. It's that we come from a time in society where the father was working. So as much as my dad was my parents stayed married, and my parents are still married, and but my dad went and worked, and he was out, and he did his thing, and my mom did the home things, and I think this like nowadays, those stigmas have changed. So
Yeah.
it allows for a single father sometimes, and it allows for a stay-at-home dad to not be looked down as down.
Yeah.
And also as well, just to add to that as well, because again, I don't know the percentage-wise, but even in the relationship where mum and dad has always been there, that doesn't make it.
That doesn't make it.
rosy and
Yeah,
cozy.
exactly.
No, exactly.
There's some children who grow up in them households where they may well have been better off where them parents were separated.
Exactly, because
because it's just being a hotbed.
Yeah, the friction is much more.
Of arguments and conflict, you know what I mean? So, I'm just happy to be able to talk about,
Yeah.
being proud to be a dad, happy to be a dad.
Well,
and
let me
enjoy
let
being
me
a
let me
dad.
let me hit you
And
with
some
that. Then,
things
bro.
that people said about, oh well, you're gonna have sleepless nights, you're gonna have this, you're gonna have that.
Yeah, I was looking forward to all that. I was
To me,
all up for
I
that.
didn't experience that myself.
No
and,
such thing as a sleepless night. You already got insomnia. So, but let me ask you. Like, so I grew up in like I said in the early 70s, where we had all of these TV shows about dads, like Courtship of Eddie's Father, or My Three Sons and stuff. The whole wise dad, right? Yeah. So being like some positive, intelligent brothers, I'm just kind of like curious, just a little fun, right? So is there any like wise epithet that you could remember that you delivered to your child? I mean, like, seems like we all of us have sons,
well,
so
to be honest,
except for Addie.
What
but
I always like to tell my son,
so you're like Ward now. Remember,
and sometimes I regret it because I said question everyone, even me. If you think, I think, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that too much.
Yeah, probably not. No,
he does a little bit too much. But no, son, if you don't know something, ask the question.
Yeah,
No
that's
matter who
true.
it
That's
is,
great.
Ask the question. That's how you learn.
There you go.
That's how you learn. Some people might interpret it as cheeky. It's not.
No,
If
that's
you
good,
don't
though.
know, if you're not knowledgeable, ask the question. But if I say something to you as your father, ask the question. You've got to say it in a certain way because I'm your father and I will come up. Yeah, you know what I mean? But
oh, what? Did he ask you
ultimately,
too many questions? Then?
Ask the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think he's took that a bit too far sometimes. But no, jokes aside, that's how you learn. That's how you develop. You've got to ask the question. Because I remember one teacher's report, I didn't bother challenge it because I just thought, I just couldn't be bothered with it. But it just said he asked some profound questions, you know what I mean? And I knew that because he used to come home and tell me certain things he'd asked the teacher and some of the answers he'd give him, as a 6, 7-year-old. We just laugh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, he knew to laugh because I said, well, they're not going to teach you everything. There's things I'm going to have to teach you, you know what I mean? And, even down to the talk, which no one wants to have it. It starts about racism and all that.
Talk,
you should not have to have that talk.
Oh, that talk. I thought you meant the other
5,
talk.
6, 7-year-olds, that there's people out there that because of the colour of your skin,
are
going to treat you differently. They're not going to like you. They're going to say things to you. And, things that are not obvious, like the obvious name calling, but they're going to treat you different. And we're talking about adults. There could be teachers in your school. But, to prepare them for that type of thing, because them things do happen and did happen.
That leads to what
horrible to have them conversations.
That leads to what
with
like
your child, but you've got to be done.
I gave my son two. Like I'm constant. My son's only he's 16 now, so it's still all that time to go. But there were two things that I said to him. One is play the game. As far as education was concerned, it's like if you play the game, nobody can tell you anything at the end of it. So
okay, what kind of game we talking about?
So we know, especially as Black people, we know that the education system hasn't really helped us as much as we'd like it to. So, but at the same time, we also know that if you come out of high school without your maths and English, or you don't have enough GCSEs or whatever, the society is going to make it harder for you to succeed.
This is true.
So for him, I was saying to him is like, and we can curse here, can't we? So I was like, so I said directly to him is like, we both know it's bullshit. However, this is what they use to label you. So what I need you to do is play this game in school. You know the stuff. Like, he's an intelligent child. That's one of the things, I'm blessed with. He's an amazing child. He knows he's known what he wanted to do in life since he was about 3 years old. So as a father, I helped to facilitate that. Me and his mother and the rest of our families helped facilitate that. But so I said to him is like, we know that he wants to be in musicals and be on stage. we know that you're not really going to need history for that. However, you need history for this. For the school requires you to take history. So what I need you to do is do as well as you can in your history course, knowing and same thing, you know, ask questions and probe your teachers, because they're not, and telling them that it's like, this is a big game. They act like they're all knowing people, but they're not. So you can question them, be respectful, but question and ask them. So that was the first thing, is like, play this game of education, of the education system, because once you get out of this system, nobody really cares. You know what I mean?
What I used to tell my son-in-law is, I don't want you to ever think that you want to be like me.
Oh yeah, I do that. I say that.
What I meant by that, to qualify what I meant, I said, what you want to do is to always think you want to be 10 times better than me, 20 times better. You always aim higher.
Right, yeah.
So you don't want to replicate. Yeah, you might want to be like me in certain ways, but always make sure you want to be better in anything that I might do that you might think is great. Then if you want to do that, make sure that when you do it, you aim to be even better than you think I am at it.
Yeah.
And that's how you should aim, and always aim like that.
And
because it is about, you know, I used to constantly, you know, again, we all took our kids to sports. Well, I did. I took them to football. He done basketball. He done rugby. He's done, you know, a wide range. And, you know, you'd have other parents, you know, really pushing the kids in football and pushing. And I always used to say to them, that's great. If you become a great footballer and then you get £1 million a week or whatever, that's great, because, you know, I'll be looking my piece of it. But ultimately, what I was saying, you know, realistically, that's less likely to happen realistically. And I always used to say, you know, the smartest guy, or who is seen as the smartest guy, most intelligent guy in the world, can't even talk properly, to a machine, and he's in a wheelchair. Because it's about what is in here that's the most important, and compared to physical attributes. I said, you could be the greatest footballer in the world, but what happens if you break your leg? And it can't be repaired properly? What happens then? Yeah. So if you haven't got a mind to fall back on, you're going to be in big trouble.
Right.
That's the most important thing, and everything else after that could be a bonus if it was to happen. And, you know, he grew up, he's an intelligent, smart young man. You know, I'm happy and proud of that. He's had a work ethic from 14. I had him during summer holidays and half terms working, you know, in a little shop, just doing, you know, little bits and bobs. So he grew up with a work ethic, he knew, and he values that, and he still works now. He's only 22, but he's worked for like
22, wow.
8 years, you know what I mean? So, he's been working, so he always values work, and that he must do it, and it's something that helps him get the things he wants, rather than trying the easy routes.
So the second thing I said to my son was, and this was the most important thing, was know who you are and where you are. So, you know, it's a matter of, especially as black men, we need to, like, when we walk around places, we don't conscious. We don't have the luxury of not worrying about what's going on around us all the time. So, you know who you are. You are a black man and know where you are. So if you're in a certain neighborhood where you know that there's not very many people who, not only that there've never been people that look like you in that neighborhood, then you need to know where you are. And that will inform how you move forward in that situation. So, you know, there's places where you can be loud and, you know, excitable and whatever else and do whatever, but that's not going to be everywhere that you are. So because of who you are. So
even when you walk into a certain department store in the city centre,
exactly.
You know, as a black person, you just know,
and
someone's going to 9 times out of 10 approach you, you know, with, can I help you? And I say, well, why would I need help? I've just walked in the shop.
I mean,
what is it you want to help me with?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I asked for help. You know, I said, you work there. If I need help, I'll go to you. You know what I mean? You didn't ask them.
Okay, bro.
All
right. What I was trying to say was,
white people. So all of them things you've got to point out to your children. And I know, you know, we could talk about this all day, because I know we're running low on time. And, you know,
well, no, I only just wanted to be able to say something. So,
I'll give Tracy a chance to say the last thing before we finish up.
No, I was just saying is that, you know, I don't think, I mean, it's a shame in a way, you know, listening to you guys, is that like, because you have to ask yourself, where does fear come from? And it seems like based upon your experiences, that you're passing that on, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just trying to say you want to protect your children and stuff like that. But then again, is that like there is also being curious, which is what I try to implement. You know, I mean, like my son is like a reflective listener. I mean, it's because he also has SEN, autism and stuff like that. But you know, it's like he takes in what is around him, like as Jay is saying, like be aware. But you know, like he doesn't jump into things, and I like to look at that as his curiousness about being able to like I'm not gonna just jump in and just be all this, but in that aspect is what I try to teach him. Really, is about like recognizing like that he could do anything. You know, sure. and in that aspect is it's like, I mean, you know, I mean, he's 18 now, but I mean, like he's born before. Sorry, before Obama. That's all I was trying to say. Yeah. You know how like when we were kids and like you saw the Little Rascals and it's like I could be president, and then the black kid will never say that. Exactly. You know, I'm just trying to say is that I just try to instill in him that you could do anything from the bedtime stories I would have to invent. Because, I mean, we were talking about that one with Patrick. It's like, yeah, I mean, you know, I was a bedtime story dad, but I didn't believe in that whole Three Little Pigs and, like, this is what the girl did when she saw the bear. You know, I make up stories for him, and the stories would involve him or involve, like, you know, letting him feel in his nature he can be something more powerful than himself, as opposed to the fantasy that, you know, Walt Disney creates.
But that goes back to what I was saying about know who you are and know where you are.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, bro.
Like, it's not just a reactionary thing. It's also you know who you are. And you know where you are. It's like, you know, you're on this stage, right, and you know that you can do this role. So you know, just know who you are. You're on the stage. You can own that. That can be you.
Just to close on that, you know, the sad part and the reality of it is, you know, I used to say things like, you still got to try and make sure you do better.
Yes,
simply because of the system out there.
Yeah, I mean,
things against you. So even though you can be. You know, one of the proud moments for me is when the headmaster of the school said to me, out of the whole year group, he is the only one who I expect to get an A* in maths. And when he does, I expect to be on the front of the echo with him. And true to his word, it was almost true to his word. One other kid in his year group got an A* in maths, so there was two. So they were the exception. But he lived up to what was expected of him.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
That's proud to feel that, you know, and we didn't get that in type of encouragement when we was at school. It wasn't from all teachers, you know what I mean, but at least there was one teacher there who believed him. The majority of teachers didn't believe in us in school, and, you know, we refer to as you people or you there, so when you leave school, you're
what you mean, you people?
And, you know, and that's how we were spoke to, you know what I mean? And it wasn't idealistic in his growing up.
And I think that's part of...
improved and changed in some respects.
And I think that's part of the reason why...
It's obvious in the dislike of...
I think that's part of the reason why it's a little bit easier for me in that sense for those sorts of things, because I grew up I keep bringing up I like to rep my country. I come from Bermuda, which
do you?
Yeah, I do. It's amazing.
Didn't know.
So you know, I grew up. I didn't really. Like primary school. I could think of 2 white people in my primary school. High school, I could think of 1. So, you know, for me. And then, you know, most of my teachers were black. In Bermuda, a lot of the politicians are black, heads of banks, a lot of lawyers. So for me, growing up, this is what leads me to say to him, know who you are. Yeah, is that I'm not afraid of the system, because I know I can beat that system, because the system was the same in Bermuda, but everybody looked different. You know what I mean? That's what the difference was. And so you never had a teacher that said you people, because when they said you people, they just literally meant you, because all of us looked the same. You know what I mean? All of us were the same. So, you know, when I came to England, and then because he didn't grow up in that society, I know that there's a large difference. And there's a interview, Killer Mike did an interview.
Oh yeah.
With the Breakfast Club, maybe a couple years ago when his Netflix series was out. Which, if you haven't seen, look for that.
Charlemagne and Gone.
Yeah, no, the Netflix series as well. That's something you'll really like. So he was saying that, you know, he had the same experience growing up, and he was saying, like, try, if you can help it, don't send your black child to a school with a majority of white people until they're old enough to understand who they are in that situation. You know what I mean? Because as he was saying, and it was the same for me, because we still did GCs and all that sort of thing, and we were competing, and he said it specifically like this: I was competing with these fictional white people, and that's exactly what it was for us. It was like, yeah, you're competing with these English people who are doing the same exams as you, so you need to do, you know, better than them, and blah blah blah. And it was like, well, who are these people? I'd never been to England, never been over the water, whatever. It was like, and it would literally, England was this fictional place because I'd never experienced it. So when I finally went to like university, I went to university in Florida in this little tiny town, and there were 1,500 people and about 30 black people. I was fine. You know what I mean? Because I had a grounding, which is what I was trying to give to my son.
Yeah.
A grounding in my own identity, and knowing that anything that they say is because they're scared of me most of the time, and they're scared about the fact that I'm better than them at half of the things that they thought that they grew up being told that they were the best at. So, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, well, cool. You know, you do you. And
yeah.
And so I tried to instill that in my son. It's like, it's the same thing. It's like, you know who you are. So when people try to tell you who you are, you can, and you don't have to fight against them on the spot, because most times you can't convince people of who you're not and who you are. Yeah. So just know in your head, whatever they're saying is bullshit. Basically, it's like they're saying it because they're afraid, or because they have some sort of preconceived idea of what you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've watched too many movies or whatever else, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And the shame is the fact that, you know, life is full of unpredictable moments. And, like, you know, I mean, you could either protect them or not protect them, or just watch them and guide them. But in that aspect, the point is you're there. And, I mean, to me, fatherhood is about being there.
Exactly.
And I mean, like, at least that's what we're talking about, you know, with us that we're here today and everything. And this is what we wanted to just be able to do, is have a conversation with, you know, with like 3 different brothers with Mr. Man there, but, you know, who have these different experiences, but we're there raising our kids.
Yeah. And
in the best way that we can. Even if we're not fully there, we are still there compared to the, you know, some of us who had that experience.
And that's the thing, as we're saying, we're fighting this narrative, because it's
there we go. That's the word I was looking for. Why didn't you just say it?
And it's a false narrative, because, you know, when I look around my circle of friends who are fathers, I can't think of one who's not there. Yeah. You know, and if there is one that's not there,
because then you would slap him in the head, bro. Well, what the hell?
Yeah, but that's just it. It's like there's no concept of that in their idea. It's like, you know, all of my friends who have children, you know, with their children, they're hanging out with their children and whatever else is going on. And, you know, and even the people beyond that, you know, there's the odd, and that's the problem. We always have the problem of the bad apple.
There will always be one.
There's always one or two who act the complete ass. And we're like,
hey, you know, do what you do, bro.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, we as black men and fathers need to support those people as well. So, you know, as I said, I mean, my son's mother had another child with somebody else, and it's for us as black fathers in those situations, we have to make a choice of how we approach the other child as well. That's the other thing that we have as a you know, there are a lot of, as I said, there are a lot of relationships that break down for whatever reason, good and bad. Yeah. And there are other children that come into this. And I, you know, as I said, I get people telling me, oh, you shouldn't have done that with her and his brother. Like, for instance, we went to Disney, and, you know, there was no way that I was going to take my son to Disney
and not just take his brother,
and not take his brother and his mother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's no, why would I do that?
No.
So then when he comes back, his brother's looking at him kind of funny, like, oh, you went to Disney and I didn't get to go, and blah, 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 and showing the pictures and blah, blah, blah. So it's about those things that I feel very important for us as especially as black fathers in situations that, like, where things are broken down. where we need to remember it's not about us, as Addy was saying. It's a selfish idea. It's not about us. It's about the next generation and how they grow up. You don't want them to be like us. We want them to be better than us. You know what I mean?
Oh
That's a great point to end on. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree, Patrick. Thanks. It's like I'm in this chair, but I mean that is a great point to end on. I mean, I was just I would like to thank the brothers that were here at the table. Addy, who had to go because you know what, he had to go get his kids and everything. But you know, I think it was still a good conversation as a starting point to have for the Liverpool Black Men's Group and everything, and for you out there to be listening and stuff. Always comment in the chat below as well because you can do that and everything. So I want to thank you, brothers, for joining me here at the round table and everything. Patrick.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, and thank you for Condo Radio for hosting us. So,
big Condo.
Hope people enjoyed the discussion.
I also want to thank our young operator at the desk, one of our young men in the Black Men's Group, Liam French, who's like, "Hey, look, I could do this," and hopefully he did it right. Yeah. But either way you look, we'll see.
Should be fun.
All right, peace out.
Yeah, that's a wrap.